Hey guys, this is Andrew Frezza with FitTown, and in today's video, I'm going to be sharing how to not lose your fitness and weight loss progress when you go on vacation, and specifically my top 5 hangover reducing tips, so that way you can minimize the damage of these types of trips and get right back into a good healthy routine. And this came up for me because in about a week, I'm headed out to a friend's wedding, and there's definitely going to be some indulgent eating and drinking involved in that weekend. And I started to think about all the little things that I've incorporated into these types of weekends to make sure that, number one, I enjoy myself as much as possible, but I feel great during those couple days, and that when I come home, I can get right back on track and a bad couple days doesn't turn into a bad week or a bad month. And the number one thing that I've learned over the years is that I have less fun when I feel like crap. And I know that doesn't sound like any type of groundbreaking finding, but I found that to be true for me, and I think it's important to reflect on that before you go on a trip like this. If eating really poorly and drinking really poorly makes you feel like crap, and you don't feel good even on vacation or when you return home, then you've kind of just eliminated the point of going on vacation altogether, right? Vacations should be relaxing, they should be fun, you should feel good on those. And that doesn't mean that you can't indulge in things that you wouldn't regularly eat at home. But if you overindulge and then you feel like crap, and you might have a good 12 hours, but then the rest of your vacation or trip, you really feel miserable, you're tired, you're anxious, you're depressed, you just feel like blah, then you kind of miss the point of going on vacation altogether. So I've just learned over the years that I have to keep some semblance of those healthy habits to find this balance between enjoying myself and relaxing my normal standards of what I might eat and drink at home, but also feeling as good as I can and as good as I want to at any given moment so I can be present, have fun, and really enjoy that experience of the vacation. The other thing that I've learned is that when I feel good, I make better decisions. And when I feel poorly, I make worse decisions. So in a second here, I'm gonna get to my hangover recommendations, and that's really what that's all about, is that if we can do some things to mitigate the damage of drinking, right? I'm not promoting you guys to drink a lot of alcohol, but I understand that a lot of you guys still will drink from time to time, and some of you guys will overdo it from time to time. I do it sometimes, not all the time, but it happens, and I'd rather be proactive and intentional about how we do it, so that way we can get you feeling as good as possible, as soon as possible, because I think you're more likely to make better decisions if you feel good, if you're not feeling hungover, versus if you feel like crap. I find that, at least for me personally, that tends to lead to worse decisions, and then things start to snowball. So there are 5 things that I focus on when going into a vacation like this, and these are things that I've just learned over the years that seem to move the needle for me. And in a second here, I'm gonna go and talk about some supplements that I've taken when I will have several drinks. And first and foremost, I should say that I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice. These are just things that I've found that work for me. And also, I'll talk a little bit about the mechanisms of how these things work, but that's not to say that it's not just a placebo effect for me. But I'm a firm believer that whether or not it's placebo or not, if it's working and it's moving the needle for you, then that's what matters. And if you feel better as a result of taking or doing something, then that's good enough for me. So first thing that I do whenever I start a vacation is I focus on starting every day with a workout and a healthy meal. And this is really key for me, that I have to get my body feeling good to start the day. And this is not about punishing myself for the night before. This is not about, well, I'm about to have 3,000 calories today, so let me try to burn 1,000 of them off. I'm not thinking about it like that. I'm really thinking about, how do I feel when I get a good workout in? How are my decisions the rest of the day? And when I have that, that heavy brunch to start the day, when I have those mimosas to start the day, not only do I not get that same good high buzz type of feeling that I would get if I had that thing later in the day at 3, 4, 5 p.m., but I start to make some really poor decisions the rest of the day, and it really becomes this entire cheat day as opposed to just one poor meal. And when I start that day with a sweat, I feel like I've kind of gotten back to a fresh start every day, and I'm feeling good, I'm feeling like myself. And then that first meal of the day, I just find that I have the best discipline at that day, and I might as well ride out that discipline as long as possible and make some healthy choices. Get some vegetables in, get some protein. Another thing that I'll do is, along the same lines as intermittent fasting, right? This is not necessarily one of my 5 tips, but I firmly believe that if you've dug a hole for yourself the night before, one of the best things you can do is stop digging, right? So don't go straight into pancakes and waffles the next morning. And a lot of times if you've overate the night before, you're probably not hungry when you wake up. I know that's the case for me. I'm not really that hungry even on a normal day, but if I've overeaten the night before, I'm really not hungry that morning. So if I can kind of do some intermittent fasting till 11, 12 in the afternoon, I can get a good workout and I could start that first meal with some protein and veggies, then that day is going to be really hard to mess up from there on out. The second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drink a lot of water, and I'm going to drink that water with electrolytes. And this is something new I've added recently where I find it really moves the needle just in my daily energy. But when you throw in alcohol, which tends to dehydrate you, it really makes a difference in terms of how you feel. So I just get the real basic liquid electrolytes that are kind of unflavored. I'm kind of hardcore in that sense that I don't need a lot of sweetener or flavoring to make me want to drink something like that. Some of you guys could get some that are sweetened with stevia. Those are pretty good brands out there. But I'll just put a few drops in every glass of water that I take. And then if I'm drinking, I try to alternate each glass of alcohol with a glass of water. So as I'm dehydrating myself, I'm rehydrating myself throughout this process. And some drinks like a vodka soda or Moscow Mules that I really like to make, I will even add electrolytes into a drink like that, so that way I'm making sure that I'm getting it consistently throughout. But I've really found that the water with electrolytes makes a difference, and by alternating with those alcoholic beverages keeps perspective on how many drinks you've had and doesn't let that number get away from you throughout the evening. The third thing I want to cover is the supplements I take. I don't take a ton of things as just a normal part of my routine, and I don't really take a ton of things when I drink, but the three that I found move the needle for me are activated charcoal, vitamin B12, and milk thistle. So with the activated charcoal, this is something that's actually used when people overdose on alcohol or drugs to clean up the toxins in their system and get it out of their system. So activated charcoal actually absorbs and binds to toxins to help your body process and get rid of these toxins faster. Vitamin B12 I like because as I drink alcohol, I tend to get tired, and B12 is a great way to keep that energy going without these stimulating effects that I would typically get from caffeine, which would keep me up at night. And what I've seen with B12 is it actually gets reduced with alcohol consumption. So as you drink alcohol, your B vitamins tend to get knocked down, specifically vitamin B12, and a deficiency in vitamin B12 can lead to some of those depressing feelings, and alcohol already has kind of that MO where it's more of that downer, depressant type of substance. So if you take something like a vitamin B12, make sure that your levels are staying up. Potentially it can help with energy that evening and energy the next day and not having those depressing feelings. Milk thistle is the third one, and basically this helps with detoxifying the liver. Alcohol is processed through the liver, and milk thistle seems to be able to support that. And again, I'm not a doctor with this stuff. I've used different things throughout the years, and these are three simple things that I get. I get them all separately as just capsules that I'll take, and depending on how much I'm drinking, I might take a few different doses of these things. My fourth recommendation for reducing damage and reducing that hangover is to simply drink the right stuff. And this would be a little different for everybody, but there are principles that really apply to everyone. And the most obvious one is to avoid any type of sugary or heavily sweetened drinks. And that includes things like rum runners and pina coladas and things that are going to be made with soda, like a Jack and Coke. All of these things, that sugar is really going to add up. And a lot of times what a lot of us experience as a hangover the next day is not even so much a hangover from the alcohol, but more of a hangover from the sugar and the artificial sweeteners that we had the night before. So the good news with all this is there's so many more alcoholic-based drinks out there that are coming out for more of the health-conscious consumer. These seltzer-based drinks that are coming out now, like White Claw and Truly, that are really just taking the alcoholic beverage industry by storm right now, are pretty good in my opinion, and most of them are around 100 calories, have only 5 grams or less of sugar, so you're doing pretty good with one of these. You could even take it a step further. I mean, I actually prefer to just make my own seltzer-based alcoholic drink, and I'll get a LaCroix, or my favorite brand's actually the Polar, the watermelon and strawberry flavors, and you can add that with some vodka, some lime, and you're going to be under 100 calories because your calories are only coming from the vodka or the tequila that you would use, and it's going to be significantly healthier because you're really minimizing any type of sweeteners or artificial flavors. Another one of my favorites is a Moscow Mule, and one of the tricks that I use with Moscow Mules is I make them a seltzer-based drink. So I will use the watermelon polar seltzer. I'll get one of the healthier ginger beers, one like a Fever Tree or a Reed's that's made with real sugar as opposed to high fructose corn syrup, which is in the Gosling's brand. And I'll mix that with vodka and some lime and create this really good seltzer-based drink. And then you're just using a little bit of that ginger beer to kind of top it off and round out those flavors. Wine is another one for me that tends to be a better choice than something like beer. And I don't love wine as much as I love beer, but I find myself drinking it more often now because I just feel better when I do drink it. So as much as I love a good heavy craft beer, I'm usually good for about half of one, and then I feel full, and then I'm switching to something else like a seltzer-based drink or a Moscow Mule or a glass of wine. And then my fifth and final tip, and my number one tip by far in terms of making a difference, is just to simply get enough sleep. It doesn't matter if I do the other 4 things on the list and I do it really, really well. If I don't get enough sleep, I'm gonna feel like I'm kind of hungover the next day. Or if I maybe do 2 of the 4 from the rest of the list, but I get plenty of sleep, maybe like 9 hours of sleep would be amazing, then I'm gonna feel pretty good the next day, even though I missed the boat on some of the other recommendations on there. So sleep really is the X factor in all of this. You have to get enough sleep. And again, I think we have to remember why we're going on vacation. I think a lot of us, when we go on vacation, we don't want to lose a minute. We feel like we might be wasting time if we sleep. But if we get adequate sleep, the rest of that time is going to feel so much better. And we're going to maximize those other hours that we're awake. So hopefully you found these tips helpful as you think about taking on your next vacation. And if you enjoyed this video and got value from it, please like the video below and subscribe to our channel. And if you're local to the Jupiter and Tequesta area, find us at fittownjupiter.com. Or if you're located around the world, head over to fittown.com and check out our remote service where you can work out with us from anywhere around the world. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you on the next one.